Mr. Benkuja, I have known you for some time. I met you the first time in Dome when I came to render fumigation for you. I mean, the nuggets of wisdom you shared with me, even as a novice at the time, 8 years ago, it struck me. So I said, no, this is opportunity for a lot of people to also listen to the pieces of advice you gave to some of us that has propelled us and helped us along the way. You are welcome to Tribe Sage.
Thank you very much.
Please, for the sake of my audience, kindly tell us just a little bit about yourself in a few seconds.
Thank you for having me. I don't know where to start, but my name is Ben Kuja. I come from the northeastern part of Ghana, precisely Bunkrugu Yunyo. Yes, but I should add, I'm a citizen of two places. I've spent much of my infant life in Bunkrugu Yunyo, but my mother happens to come from the Boku West, and I also had a bit of stint with my mother's side. So I'm Bimoba, and I'm also Kusasi.
Oh, I see. That's a nice combination.
And I speak the two languages fluently.
Just to be fair, I always thought Kuja was from Western region or the coastal belt.
So interestingly, Bunkrugu Yunyo is a border town between Ghana and Togo. And speaking of when this Transvolta Togoland came into existence, you will find my family home, my family house in Togo. Kuja is actually a name from Togo.
Really?
And if you come from that area, you will know Kuja is the word denoting the currency of Togo.
Really?
Like CFA.
That's right.
So Kuja is the denotation for the currency in Togo.
It means your family is for money.
20 Kuja.
It means your family is for money.
Yeah, it said that my grandfather was a very wealthy man, and on top of that, he was so generous, and so he just became known as Kuja, because anyone who met him, he showed kindness, generosity by giving money.
Wow, that's interesting.
But actually, his name was Lar. But he got known by his nickname Kuja, and that has stayed till today.
Lar is Upper West, I should say.
It's a Bimoba name.
Wow.
Yes.
I think is it Wala people who have Lar too? Laar.
Yes.
Yes. Oh wow. You see, this culture is integrated one way or the other. At what point did you start to see business, a stint of business in your life, even as a young boy?
So I grew up studying arts. Through my secondary school, I happened to attend Tamale Secondary School. My O-level, I did some bit of the course in Boku Secondary, but I did my CFOM in Tamasco. And it was all arts. I got to the university, I was reading arts, but I was selected to also read English major. So I graduated from UCC as an English major student. But when I left the university, one thing you may not know is that I don't like talking.
I know that already.
So
that's how I was forced.
We were the last batch of the UCC program that did degree and diploma in education attached. We were the last batch. And so it was almost automatic that when you were leaving UCC, your chances of landing in a classroom was very high.
Very high.
And I didn't want to be in teaching because I don't like talking.
That's right.
And so from the time I was leaving school, the first degree, I started thinking of doing something else. But it was around that time investment banking had just been introduced in Ghana. You know, the stock exchange was introduced in 1990, and I graduated in 1998. So by the time 1998 we were living, the market was beginning to grow. And I took special interest in it. Even though I was an English student, I was interested in finance. And so at the time I was leaving, I happened to get a friend who I had spoken to, and he happened to be a player in the industry, and he gave me opportunity to start from somewhere. And so that's how I started. I switched from the arts or the social science and went into finance. And it was a very significant landmark in my life, because moving away from the arts or the social sciences into finance was a very drastic shift.
Yes.
If you ask any first degree holder coming from the north, at that time, the choicest job coming out of a first degree was to learn in an NGO in the north, because the north, you know, is
not very many.
not many, and almost all the NGOs are operating in the north,
Yes.
and they had quite interesting packages for first degree holders. Exactly. And so that was the dream career for many first degree holders. But I happen to have a different view of life and a different passion. And so when I came out, instead of pursuing that, I decided to go finance. It was a difficult shift, because from English to starting to appreciate figures and reading about indices and all the financial jargons, it was a very difficult shift. But I was so determined to make it. And that is one of the things that many young people should look at. You don't chase what is in vogue. You really should be looking at what you can do with a passion. And it is only when you do something you are passionate about, you are likely and most likely to win.
Wow. So passion is like a central force for a lot of success.
Oh yes, passion.
Plus all the other components.
I think passion is the fulcrum for success, because yes, it draws every other force you need to be able to forge on and to succeed. Because when I came in, and in fact, those who remember my early years in Gold Coast Securities, I had the opportunity of working with Dr. Ndum, who became my mentor and my godfather. I've had a very good working relationship with him for decades. And when I entered there and people asked, which university are you coming from? I said UCC. What did you read? English. It was kind of funny, and sometimes they jeered, they made certain unpalatable comments to the effect that I was in the wrong place. But I knew, but it kind of triggered the can-do spirit in me, and I was determined to prove everyone wrong, that what the BSc finance person could do, I could also do it. And so I took off with some passion and with some determination, and I was reading things I couldn't even understand. I was reading the graphic, the financial news without understanding. And even though there was orientation, I started as a sales and marketing person. I needed to be fluent in the financial language. I needed to catch up as fast as possible. And that was it was passion that then gave me that drive to be able to achieve that in the shortest possible time. And I still am proud to say that in my working career with Gold Coast Securities, my track record is there to show. Successively, I was always a best performer in the entire corporate organization for several years.
One thing that fascinates me about you is your grit. It's like when you set your mind to do something, like nothing can sway you. Where did you pick that from? Is it childhood or through the career ladder?
I have been a very bold and determined person from infancy. I don't know how that is, but I should say that I am an only child. I grew up in a compound, playing, thinking, making decisions all alone. I did not know how to consult, get opinions for someone. I solved my own problems myself.
Your creativity.
And I made my decisions myself. Aside the decisions that your parents make for you as you grow up. But when it comes to life's decisions, I started making decisions at a very early stage. I remember even back in the university, when we were, my first degree, when we were in our second year, when we were supposed to major in our third year and complete in the fourth year. Those who know Kevas during those times would tell you that it was too daring to take English, to major in it, because you were likely to come out with a third class. And everybody, even relatives, tried to persuade me not to do it. And it was quite difficult for me to appreciate why people were advising me that way. But at the end of it, I made that decision myself, and I said, I'm daring whoever, I would go for it, and I was going to do it. And I can say that I came out a very good grade, a good class.
That's very bold. That's very bold. Would you say that your environment, your settings, did you see yourself becoming a business person, or you would have been in the employment in the corporate space? Because from transiting from Gold Coast to owning businesses, what was the transition point for you?
And I think my business inclination started also in UCC. One other thing is that I was a student leader when I was in Kevas. I happened to be the JCR president for one of the notorious ATL, Atlantic Hall.
Oh.
And what surprises people, even from that time, was that I was in the diaspora and contested and won elections to be the hall president. And so, no. And so it took everybody by surprise. But from that point, if you listen to the history of Atlantic FM, it was a creation of a student. But during my time, I commercialized it and turned it into a business.
Wow.
Yes.
You converted it to a commercial
into a commercial radio. It was earning revenue for the hall, and its influence was spreading.
Reaching farther.
We were able to get to UNICEF. I was able to go to UNICEF. They gave us equipment for us to also broadcast their programs, whilst we also used it for our commercial purpose. So my business inclination started from that point. And so by the time I was coming out of UCC, I was determined to do my own thing. And even whilst I was working for Gold Coast Securities, I started trying some businesses that were not in conflict with my company, because I was doing landscaping for people, for hotels on the side of it with my wife.
Really?
Unfortunately, that company had to collapse because at a point I had to leave for the UK for further studies. So, but when I came back from the UK after my studies, I was then saddled with Gold Coast Securities, where I had to do full time. But during my time in Gold Coast, the the push to be in business was always burning in me. Yes, because even with that, I had started doing some bit of consultancy, whilst I was in Gold Coast. Yes, but I would also give credence to my former employer, Dr. Pakwesi Indum, because I took a lot of inspiration from him, and I learned a lot at his feet, and he impacted a lot upon me, and that is what spurred me on until 2010, 2011, when I came out and set up my own businesses.
Wow, amazing. That's inspiring story. What would you say that has been the most turbulent experience starting up a business? Is it the startup phase or somewhere along the scaling phase? Which part is the most difficult for you?
Generally speaking, startups are difficult, and that should be the difficulty of any entrepreneur. But even in this our environment, at every level, it is a difficult, it's a challenge. Talking about the scaling up point, it can be a challenge. I've seen many companies here go down just when they were trying to scale up. They thought they were doing so well and they wanted to scale up, and that's what brought their downfall. But generally speaking, in terms of looking at the organization, starting, beginning to set up a company is the most difficult aspect of it. But one of the things I have learned over 10, almost 11 years working for Dr. Ndum is resilience. When you have the resilience and determination to make it, you can always make it. And one of the things we need to know, especially in this environment, is that, look, working for your employer, staying faithful for that long, gives you the mettle that it takes to be able to stand when the waves hit you, when you start your own.
Please repeat that. I really want you to emphasize that. Please, can you repeat that for me?
I just want to emphasize that when you stay long, especially working for your employer, it grounds you well and gives you that mettle that makes you to overcome the waves that will hit you when you start yours. Because working for Gold Coast Securities, those who have had the privilege of working with me know the challenges we had, and at a point when I was put in the saddle as a CEO, what I had to grapple with to make Gold Coast Securities stand. It was that training, it was that robustness in my spirit that held me to be able to stand, to grow the companies that I established when I left.
Given all the things you had to deal with, both as an employee of Gold Coast, the CEO of Gold Coast, starting your own business, would you advise people to go into business? Would you advise somebody who has this fancifulness, thinking when he enters he will just buy a car and all of these things are good? Would you advise them to start?
Business is a conviction, I should say. And it is only when you are convicted that it is the way you want to go. Don't take it that somebody is in it and is doing well. And why? I even think I have better startup capital, I can do it better. If it is about money, you will fail. You should be doing it as a conviction that the business concept you have is something you can make it work, you are passionate about it, and you really have thought through the pros and cons of what you're going to do for the long haul. And so when you get into it, you get into it with the fullest commitment and with the fullest force. Because the moment you rear your head to start, you're going to be buffeted by so many things, especially in the environment we find ourselves, which is not helpful to infant businesses. When you are buffeted by these challenges, you can just fizzle out.
That's right.
You can be swallowed.
That's right. So you said you went to UK to study, and all of these exposures. I've begun to see a trait. Almost everybody in his 50s, 60s who's doing well has had some sort of experience with traveling. Do you think there's a secret ingredient there for people who travel and come back, that they seems to be doing well? Do you have anything to?
I wouldn't think so. I'd like to talk with facts, because I can also point to entrepreneurs, successful entrepreneurs in town who haven't really stayed anywhere, but they just had the acumen and they had the conviction to start what they started, and they've succeeded. What going out of this country gives you is some exposure of some dimensions of the economies out there, and you can then relate it back to Ghana. And when you go out, what is interesting is it's only when you go out that you can appreciate the opportunities that abound in Ghana. When you are in Ghana, you think it's only trading, buy and sell. It's only when you go out and you sit back from outside and watch, you come back into the country, you will find areas of opportunities that you can exploit. And that is the benefit of having that exposure outside.
One of the key problems with my little interactions with other people, youngsters in business, is financing. Do you need money to start a business? Okay. If yes, okay, please go ahead.
I in my career as an investment advisor, I've kept telling people, you don't need money to start a business. You need an idea, a very good idea. And I can point to some companies here, tech companies, that came to me with an idea and we found the money to start them. Yes. And there are several businesses like that. There are people even within this Achimota who have become successful because we financed an idea. They didn't have the money, but they just came with an idea. We evaluated the idea, we tested the concept, and the proof of concept showed that, look, we needed to just provide the funds and guide the person to achieve his dream. And that has happened.
So if somebody doesn't have money and he has an idea, he has a high chance to become successful.
Have a high chance. I think you have 60% of what you require to make you successful. The rest of it is for guidance, and then probably 10% of it is for the injection of capital to come in.
Yeah. So talking of capital, it's one of the huge problems of running a business in Ghana for me, speaking of the ecosystem. As a finance person, how are the youth in entrepreneurship going to get this thing resolved? Because collateral and all these things they don't have, it always, as it were, blocks the opportunity for them to get funds. Sometimes they have to even bid for a job. They can't secure funds. Why is that big? I mean, continuously it's becoming a problem. It's not like it's going away. How are the youth in business ever going to get over that kind of hurdle?
You know, I believe that, you see, if you have a well-functioning government, and I don't want to go into politics, but you can't help to point out certain things. Right. If you have a well-functioning system in a country, of course you have, in Ghana, we happen to have the mainstream banking sector. We have an investment banking sector. So we have everything that makes it possible for capital to be raised.
That's right.
And even so, for the small scale entrepreneur,
Yes, yeah.
we have down to savings and loans and microfinances to be able to help you, whichever tier you find yourself starting from.
Support.
But what happens is, because the system is dysfunctional, it is difficult for even these intermediaries, whether it's a microfinance, savings and loans, or the bank the mainstream banking or investment banking sector. It's difficult for them to facilitate your business because the system is so, in summary, unpredictable.
That's right.
The risks are too much,
Yeah.
and now financial houses are not prepared to put much risk into startups, greenfields.
That's right.
So, for instance, if you are a young man, you have a business, you are so much convicted that it is going to work. You now have to contend with how to get a financier to walk past that fear of risk.
Yeah.
Because however brilliant your idea is, your concept is,
Yeah.
they just don't want to make a false move. And it's because the system is so unfriendly, it won't forgive you if you make a mistake as a financial institution.
No remorse.
No remorse, no hesitation. So that is why one, financial houses, banks, investment, whichever financing intermediary you go to, they are reluctant to give you that support. Secondly, if you are lucky to get it, then they are charging you a premium for the kind of risk that they are taking on you.
That's right.
That will make the whole concept useless.
That's right. You work for them.
You will, in the end, be working for them.
Do you think the venture capital to help these startups, Ghanaians are really leaning into it? I don't think like the way Nigeria and South Africa, they have this broad and it's open. It's not a secret like go and see SMSC or something. And it's not very broad here. People want to do like angel investment, those hide and seek thing. Why are people not coming out to do venture? I mean, to encourage the young people.
Talking about venture capital, that's very interesting, because I was also part of the formative stage of the venture capital industry in Ghana, and that's one brilliant thing Kufuor will always be remembered. President Kufuor will be remembered for, because in 2008 the venture capital bill was passed and its implementation started. And so we were some of the fund managers that were trained to run that industry. And unfortunately, it has not served its purpose, as we know, as up to this time. Its impact on our ecosystem is nothing to write home about. At the end of it, people are still left with no option but to go to the mainstream commercial banks to go and borrow,
which are not business friendly.
They are not business friendly. They are not even meant to incubate businesses, let alone to finance long-term projects for businesses. And so when you are starting a business, you don't expect to start paying back instantly. But then you don't have an option if you have to start.
You are thrown to the wolves.
You are thrown to the wolves. And so this venture capital thing, it's sad that it hasn't been.
Problem? The successive governments didn't hold
I
it up.
think we've gone past policy, because it was passed, its implementation was done. There's a venture capital trust fund. I think it's just about human commitment and those who are put to run these agencies. And that is what has happened, because many institutions are not having the willpower to do what their mandate has stipulated them to do.
Focus, execution, discipline. Please, what is your priority of arranging this in your own business for us?
I don't know which takes priority, but discipline for me in every endeavor in life
Vitamin D.
is number one. Discipline will then bring about your focus, because if you are disciplined, you cannot be distracted. There are so many things when you are into business, or if you are an entrepreneur, so many things can distract you and you can lose course. But if you are disciplined, you maintain focus. And when you set out on determined to achieve a particular goal until you hit it, you don't get distracted. That is the way I would look at it.
Where does execution comes in for you? As someone who's been a CEO of Gold Coast, I mean, it is not a mean task to manage such a huge funds. Execution as a MD, CEO now of your own group of businesses. How do you weigh execution in terms of even mentoring people?
I think execution comes along with focus, because once you are focused, it is assumed that you stay on course to ensure that your execution plan, your strategy, your plans are on course, and that is what where execution comes in. Execution is very much then determined by the kind of resources. And when I talk about resources, it encompasses so many things. But in Ghana, one of it, which is most critical than financial and everything, is the human resource. Because in Ghana, many good efforts are sunk and drowned because of human resource.
Oh, how are we going to get out of the quagmire? The other day, we were having the same discussion on this program, speaking about how the people in public sector, for that matter, if not for this iron hands and fist hands of the private sector, who make sure they get value. The government sector, we are not able to get the value for the money we sink into the employment and the systems. It seems so porous. How are we going to ever get out?
It's a very difficult way out. It's going to be a difficult
It's a long way.
because it starts from the mindset of people. And if you ask me, who has also been an educationist or coming from an education background, it comes from the training and the value systems we put into our people. People are now being churned out from our universities and our professional institutions with a certain mindset that doesn't help to make them part of a development of a company. We only recruit people to pay them for doing nothing.
This seems to have limits, or it doesn't have a full expression in private. It means the governance system have to be restructured.
Even in private, it has, you know too well that we have had banks that have collapsed and owners have regretted because of employees. I have had my fair share, and many companies are struggling even today because of the kind of workforce we have. We have come to a point, I've had to advise some friends of mine who are running businesses now to go for expatriates to manage. And it is only when they have started putting expatriates that they are beginning to get relief and success. Because the mindset of the typical Ghanaian, I'm so sad and ashamed to even say that about my own kin.
Please go ahead.
But our mindset is not execution friendly.
You just spoke in my words. You've taken it out of my mouth. How are we ever going to get the Ghanaian to turn around his mind? Because Magdan has already spoken about this, and several other business magnates. Dangote said he has Indians and things. So it's becoming literally like an African problem. I mean, you are going into your legacy age. How are we going to kind of whip up the young ones to get this mindset of leading?
I don't think it is magic, and I don't think it is difficult to do.
Okay.
But we must have a patient program of redefining who we are as a people and begin to address this thing consciously. It is something that is sliding past, and we are involved in, we are left to just resort to blaming, but there has to be a starting point. And if I want to just think back,
Yeah.
this wasn't the mentality of our progenitors, our forebears. This wasn't the way Ghanaians were known to work. Ghanaians have always been known to be hardworking, very dedicated,
Honest,
committed. But that is not what has happened in the last few decades. Things have just spiraled out of control. So if you ask me, I was mentioning retraining our mindset, which has to start from school. I can say that, and I dare say, even in our school system, the kind of mindset that our kids in the second cycle institutions have, even before they get to the tertiary, is even not healthy.
Jesus.
And one thing I found very important in the university, I studied it just for 2 years probably, but which has had an impact because I am by nature a reflective person, is reading philosophy. We need to get back to teaching philosophy even from the basics, to teach our kids what life is about, what humanity is about, what communal living is about, what success is all about. People tend to think, and most of the time, the young ones that are coming up think money is success. We need to redefine what success is. Until we do that, which takes us back to the training years, the basic years, where we can inculcate this in the kids, we are wasting our time.
This on a large scale where it can affect as many people should be like a policy institutionalized.
It should be a policy and be brought down into our curriculum. We have things like moral education and all that. It has to start from the time we are grooming these young ones to come up. Otherwise, it's not going to help.
That brings me to a very important question. Formal education and self-education. I mean, after university, a lot of people stop educating themselves. Do you think that is one of the problems why there's so much human capital performance depletion?
That is, you're partly right. But you see, it is all because of the kind of formal education we have. Because we have a situation where typically a young man writing his final papers is already calling you from school, uncle, I need a job when I come out. And he is so much fixated with finding a job, and even he's choosy where he wants to go because he has this perception, this place is where you can make money, this place is where they pay well, and yet they know nothing. And I keep telling them, look, your first, probably for me, it took me like 10 years. And that is the yardstick I always take. I say for the first 10 years, you should be thinking about developing your value. Because until you have value, you shouldn't be thinking of making money out of yourself. So, but when you have kids jumping out of school, the day they put a full stop to their final paper, they are looking for a job to start making money, not opportunities to develop their value. We have a problem there. And that's why I think that we need to start training them back in the school, what they should be looking forward to and coming out of school. Because when I came out and I started work with Dr. Andum, as I said, my mind was to develop my value.
That's right.
Because I saw in my value, because I started with nobody respecting me in that company.
Exactly.
And so I need to prove myself.
That's right.
And I can boast to say that at a point, I was indispensable. Yes.
You build so much value.
So much value. I became indispensable at a point. And so if you can develop your value, then you can sell yourself for whatever price you want to. But you can't be expecting to come from school and jump into a company that should be paying you what a professional career person who has been working for 10 years is earning. But that is the mindset our students come out of school with. And that's why I think that why they wouldn't even look at self-education, because when they come out, they spend more time thinking about how to get money than to even read more, expand their horizon, and to better develop their value. They don't think about that.
So I always ask anybody who come on the program to leave a question for the next guest. Please ask a question for the next guest to answer.
If I'm to ask a question,
Yes, sir.
I want to know, I want somebody's perspective as to when we are going to turn around as a nation.
That's deep. It will take us 24 hours
Yes.
to answer that
When
question.
we are going to turn around.
Do you think that Ghana is business friendly?
It's difficult to say. It depends on which perspective you come from. Ghana is business friendly, but the systems are strangulating. Yes, the people in Ghana are nice people. We're nice people. We welcome people, but the systems are strangulating. I have.
They are still almost in heat doing
Yes.
this interview.
Yeah, exactly. You have businesses.
No current.
You have. I mean, you every day. It's commonplace to hear of businesses that have tried to come here to start their business, to incubate their businesses here. They get frustrated and they have to leave.
That's right.
And so
I had a friend like that from UK.
exactly. So there would be opportunities, but what are the systems and the facilitation that we give to these daring entrepreneurs? Because truth be told, it is not for the weak in heart to put out your capital to start a business. It is not for the weak in heart.
So the least
And
you
so
respect is the environment.
exactly, and for facilitation.
That's right.
But when you have the system fighting you even for starting your business, then you better not start.
Oh my goodness. So there is a program at UDS that does incubation for business. So if young kids have ideas, they can pitch. So instead of this thing you were trying to espouse, they are chasing money. They are telling them to nurture ideas, build discipline, capital, and all these things that literally they would have to come to employment to do. Do you think that's something we should replicate in other universities?
I think it's long overdue that we don't have entrepreneurship read across all our universities or our professional institutions, because I think we have the Ghanaian by nature is enterprising, and given the opportunity, a lot of our young people can be nurtured to begin their own businesses. Entrepreneurship is not difficult to pursue. The only advantage coming out and working for an employer is about building networks.
That's right.
That is the only thing. But you can have a successful entrepreneur coming out from a first degree.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right.
But we don't even have efficient counseling systems in our universities. even to deal with counseling, to be able to advise students which pathway they want to take, career choices. We don't even have that, even to talk about counseling, let alone to have it in a curriculum. I am happy to know we have an association of entrepreneurs in Ghana, but I think it's too dormant an organization. It is something that should be able to reach out beyond the practitioners who get into membership, to begin to put memoranda and begin to put out this deliberate agenda to get entrepreneurship read in almost all our institutions. Because all the students we have in the universities, a number of them are potential entrepreneurs. And if we are actually looking at developing our economy, where we keep touting private sector, it's going to be these young ones with entrepreneurial acumen. We should begin to pick them and nurture them early.
Before they fall into wrong hands. Have you had a turn back moment, a time that you almost felt like giving up? And what brought you out?
No. That's why I keep using that word conviction. When I have a strong conviction about something, you must cut off my head to get me to stop.
That's right.
Yes,
That's right.
You must take my head off my shoulders, then it will cease. But there's not a moment, once I have that conviction that what I'm doing is right, nothing stops me. I have had moments developing Lymen Creek, my company, and its subsidiaries. I've had occasions to rethink. I could have done this better, this way. I should have done this. I should have put this person here. I should have put this person there. That is something we call hindsight. And hindsight is good for experience. But to regret and think of, let me walk away. That is never in my language.
Oh, I see. That's interesting. Have you got a question? So I'm thinking, if this is something that you really like, if we want to whip up an institutional tour for secondary school, which is something we've been having on drawing board for some time, entrepreneurial tour for the students, that we catch them at the secondary level. Is this something you would like to come along?
I wouldn't mind. I will relish that opportunity, because I've had opportunity. I think when I was in Gold Coast Securities, I had opportunity to address students in UCC, organized by the alumni at the time, and it was really impactful. And you could see students were hungry to listen to these kind of motivational talks, because, like I said, a lot of them have appetite to be on their own.
That's right.
Even without knowing how the work environment is. Yeah. But they already have it in their spirit that they want to be on their own, and they can do it. And they sometimes take inspiration from those of us who have led the way, and they would want to. So given the opportunity, I think that we didn't get the opportunity of listening to these as much as we should be given to them. Yeah. I would relish that opportunity to impact it on them.
This is your camera. Please, I want you to look into it. Ghana is already in a very terrible place. It's a no-brainer. It's not about me campaigning or saying anything. I want a young person who is in a very terrible place to listen to you and get a whip of spirit that it is not over until he wins. There's your camera.
To all young people, I think Ghana belongs to us, or belongs to you, and we have more years ahead of us. In every life's journey, there are obstacles, but those obstacles are meant to build character, build resilience for the success ahead. And so when you encounter challenges, don't think of giving up. Don't dwell on mistakes. learn from mistakes and build on it and do better. But number one, remain with your conviction and march forward.
This is off camera.
Off camera.
So I mean we can do that. My question is, being in the financial institution, I think like that, what can the Bank of Ghana or the Ghana government help the banks to help the entrepreneurs or to encourage? Because at the beginning you said an idea is what's beginning of the
Wealth creation. Yeah.
So and the financial institution is the one to fund it. And I can see you were talking about like collateral, somebody who is starting. So what can Bank of Ghana or the government
As a policy
help the banks to help young men to enter into entrepreneurship?
I don't even think Bank of Ghana should be, unless they want to create quotas where they say it's a must that you, this bank, your 10% of your portfolio must go to young entrepreneurs or startups or this. But that is not also a decision Bank of Ghana can take to put the risk on the funds of shareholders.
That's right.
So they can't do that.
So it is profit driven.
But what the Bank of Ghana can do is to give incentives to organizations or to financing organizations that are prepared to risk into those areas that many others will not want to go into. So, for instance, giving some tax rebates and tax holidays for any entrepreneur who is prepared to venture into financing startups, because the government realizes or recognizes that startups are more risky. So, okay, if you, this bank, any bank, if you are prepared to, we will consider this and give you tax rebates or give you tax holidays. I think that was a policy they took to encourage banks going into agric, because every government comes and talks about agric. They talk too much than they do.
Yeah.
But yet again, these things might even be on the books, but yet again, it takes implementation. We have schemes that have been started by governments, but at the end of it, they don't actually channel these things to those who really should be benefiting from it. So that is a whole discussion of its own. But there are ways by which central bank and Securities and Exchange Commission can give incentives to financial intermediaries to be able to risk their capital in going to support this. We have a small business Maslog. So you see, all these things are there.
NDIP.
And
Like
so they are all there. But what are they doing?
White
Exactly. At the end of it, they are just channels to get cronies supported and all that. Unfortunately. So I think that is the only way we can help young people.
So in summary, you are on your own if you start a business in Ghana.
You're on your own. And you're not just on your own. You really attract a horde of enemies to come after you. You have GRA coming, you have all the regulators, everybody is coming for their pound of before you can even stand.
Yeah, ripping you apart.
Why can't GRA, why can't there be a government policy that if you are a startup, GRA should never step at your door for the next 3 years
to help you
file your returns every year? Until 3 years, GRA shouldn't step there. They should not ask you for any this thing. Have a tax. Even if there are taxes to be applied, it shouldn't be taken up front. It can be kept and later paid after 3 years.
Reinvested.
Yes.
To help businesses get off the ground.
That's not what happens. You start today, they see your signage Oh, there's a new company here. They are coming to you the next month, and they bring hell down you.
It's as if they want to.
So you can't even stand. You borrow the money, but you have to, even before you start a business, you are not making profit immediately, but you are required to start paying. So
It is not incentive.
no, it's not.
Last question. In 5 steps or policies that can help Ghana economy to start.
5 policies.
5 policies that can help.
That's a lot.
That's a lecture. It's a whole lecture.
It's a whole lecture. I mean, the bottom line, getting our economy to stand is to restructure our economy. Our economy is too much a sale, buy and sell economy.
Consumerism.
Consumerism, that is it. You can't develop an economy like that. And that is why we are suffering. So talk about everything to do with our exchange rate and whatever. It all stems from the structure of our economy. Until our leaders are ready to develop that, to change that, and it must be radical. It must be radical to begin to process our own raw materials, add value, do more export, consume our own rather than importing. We can't change what is going on. We can't. So it's all about restructuring the economy.
The private sector is the engine of growth, but this is as good as the words, but nothing or no effort is being inputted into really giving the private sector the structures or the funds or the boosters. Even if not funds, I really think it's not much of a fund, sometimes letter of credit and support. Government is not really committed to the private sector. So it really bothers me when I hear the ministers and these people talk about private sector is the engine of growth. What are we doing as a private sector to demand more from these people? It's like we have to do something about it.
There's too much lip service in this country. And I think that is the undoing of this country. We are not short of laws. We are not short of policies. We are so brilliant in concept formation, strategies, everything.
Research.
But when it comes to implementation, do it. You pick somebody and appoint the person, they mess you up. They mess everything up. They deviate from what they are supposed to do and pursue parochial interests. I think that's the summary of what afflicts this country. Talk about what the private sector can do. I have no clue, because it comes back to the people themselves. Because we have private sector organizations, AGI and institutions of that sort.
Yeah.
Every industry has an association.
We're supposed to further the interests of the members.
The good tests and everything. We have them. But can we even trust that the leadership of these organizations speak for the advancement of their membership? That's something.
That's a bigger question.
I'll leave it to you.
That's the bigger question. We really, really are happy to have you. And this has been an exciting, exhilarating show to speak. What will be your last words for our viewers, please? In fact, not to cut you, one thing I told you on the chat is that I wanted you to give like 5 key points, as it were. If you were starting out, if you're a youngster, say these are the keywords that have helped me, the key attribute of my success. Because I have seen you, 8 years I met you, you were already doing fantastic, and now I know by the grace of God you've advanced even furthermore. What are the 5 key things, if there is behavior, if there is knowledge, whatever areas that you can pinpoint, as I use the 5 golden rules that can help any youngster watching us today?
Okay, if you ask me, number one, I'm a person of faith. I think faith anchors everything you have to do. We all descended onto this planet Earth from some divine source. And I think that we all have a mission to accomplish. And that is one thing I believe, that everyone, and no one is an exception, is laden with potential. That's what I believe. Everyone walking on the street, they may not have the opportunity, but they are laden with potential, waiting to be unearthed. For me, the first thing is about faith. Not too much to do with superstition in that respect, but also being able to connect yourself with your faith and to be able to, as it were, meditate, think, have time for developing your consciousness to the point that you will begin to define yourself, get to know who you are, and in that process, you are going to have a revelation of what you are meant to be and what you are meant to do on this earth before you depart. That is the number one thing. So faith, in a way, I happen to be born into a clerical family. And so I grew up from a missionary home, and so I'm so grounded in matters of faith. I think that is the very beginning of anything any young person should think of. 2, you can't, as I talk about everyone being laden with opportunity and talent and resources, you can't bring this out for the world to see without studying. You need to learn. You can't just come out without substance. Yeah. You need to take learning seriously. If you find yourself in school, you need to stop thinking about what is the end. Where can this course take me? What can this course earn me? Focus at that moment to get the knowledge grounded in you and the knowledge to flow in your bloodstream. By the time you come out of school, know what you were in that school to study well. And even in the university, our system was built in a way that even when you are in the university, what I've learned after I came out of university is that the university is not there for you to go and learn economics, finance, and B-commerce and geology and all that. There's something intangible in the university program or in the academic program, and that is the broadening of your mind. There is something about learning about our educational system, or a well-functioning educational system, which is to open your mind and make you critical, make you a deep thinker, to be able to go beyond the average surface. Yes. And so what I discovered after I came out of university was not the English I learned, but the ability to dig deep and even pursue knowledge that I hadn't been taught in the university. And that is what a good educational system should do. It should equip you to come out and be able to explore and fly on your own wings. That is what a good educational system should be. So if you have opportunity to learn, that is what you should do. Sometimes I see SS graduates or someone who is less endowed idling, or you give them work, they have some spare moments. They don't even think that, let me get a book and read beyond what I'm doing to broaden my knowledge. All they know is, let me spend all the time, my spare time, let me go and either do something else, play or have fun. But every moment you have, especially if you are disadvantaged, every moment you have is a time for you to take advantage of finding the opportunity to learn something new. And that is it. The third thing is about patience. Look, if you are a young person and you don't have patience, you can't go anywhere. If a chicken, or let's say a hawk or an eagle, hatches its young, and the young one begins to know that, oh, I can flap my wings as my mother is doing, and decides to jump out before it is fully feathered, you would go down. What brings a lot of young people down is impatience. We are rushing too much before we can fly. We are rushing too much before we are equipped enough to be able to stand the weather. And so if you are not patient, you will go out prematurely, and that will be your disaster.
That's right.
Number 4, if you ask me, it's about relationships. In this world, we were talking about capital and talking about what it takes to succeed. One of the things about business success is relationships. If you don't know how to relate, you won't go far in life. Every young person, you need to learn. And to be honest with you, I am an introvert, serious introvert. As I've spoken to you for this time, I am wasted. When I get back home, I have to rest. I have to recharge. I'm not a person who talks. But I discovered this when I entered the university and I became a student leader. And I realized, even though I was an introvert, I used to like to be on my own. And then most of the time, if it was not lectures, I would want to be in my room. I would want to be all by myself. I know how to be happy being alone.
All by yourself.
I am that kind. But I sooner discovered that I needed to relate to be able to fly. And from the time I got into student politics, I became a JCR president, I was forced to relate during the campaign and everything. In fact, people didn't know me. At the time, I was filing to stand for student elections and all. So when my sponsors pushed me that I had the opportunity and I had what it takes they saw me, and even though I was in the diaspora, the moment I filed, they said, Ben, you can't be in the room. You need to get out. You have to now go out
and meet people.
You can't be on your own. That's when I burst out. I started to relate. I started to build relationships, interact. It is currency of its own. Relationships. And if you can build relationships, you have one of the pots of gold that it will take to succeed in anything you want to do. Relationships. Finally, I think that we should be respectful and very circumspect. At every point in your journey, you need to stop, look back, and learn lessons, and then continue. In my life, from the time 1990 8 when I left first degree, I have segmented my life in years. And every 5 years, I take stock and look back and look forward and determine what I want to do next and make the move. It is very important as a young person to make sure you periodically take stock and convince yourself that you've not fared badly.
That's right.
Where you have reached, what are the mistakes you did? What could you have done better? What are the lessons you've learned? Before you continue, if you want to continue that same path, you will continue with a better approach. If you want to move somewhere else, you would know what you should go in with to do something much more different. Don't spend your 30 years in a company till retirement not gauging your life periodically until you come out of retirement and realize that
You've messed up for 30 years.
you've messed up for 30 years. What was I doing sitting here?
bury
I was
your
only
roots to the ground.
I was only content with salary and getting home. I've managed to build a house and that's all. There's much more to be achieved on this planet than to finish school, get married, have kids, work, build a house, retire, die, and go and be forgotten. No, there is something. And at every point, it is important. It's just like a business. Your life is a business. You need to always examine what has passed and develop your plans for going for the future. And when you do that, you will not only be successful in life, you will be fulfilled. And if you have opportunity to talk to your children before you die, you will be happy you lived a fulfilled life.
Beautiful. One word for your teen self, if you happen to, like we are here, where your teen self, what would you tell them? That you're proud, that you, what would have been your advice for your teen self?
For my teen self?
Yes.
Oh, I believe in myself.
That's right.
That is what I'll tell you.
That's right.
I believe in myself. I have one thing that I trust myself with. I know how to self-regulate. That is me. I can ask opinions, advice, everything. But at the end of it, I gather so many perspectives.
To your own
And then I formulate a decision out of all that.
so the outcome is your own
The
conclusion.
outcome is mine and I'm responsible for it. I believe in myself.
This has been an experience. I have learned a lot. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah.
Thank you so very much.